I love electric types. Maybe it's because I like the color yellow, or because Pikachu rewired my brain before I could tie my shoes. Not sure. But I am sure that I'm looking forward to exclusively using electric types in this hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Crystal. Though I probably chose the absolute worst Johto game to host this challenge, considering someone at Game Freak thought it'd be a good idea to remove Mareep of all things from the game. This is where I began to doubt that logo. So without Mareep to encounter on Route 32, who's gonna be my first electric monster? Well, usually in this scenario, the consensus says that I should just add the first possible Electricmon to my party early, however far that is. But we run into 1.5 problems with that option. 1, the first encounter is all the way at the gate before Whitney, and half, said encounter is a 50-50. In place of Mareep, Crystal has the Odd Egg, a special gift from the daycare couple that can hatch into any of the available babies at the time. Both Elekid and Pichu are possible outcomes here, but considering how far into Johto they are and the unclear role between the two, I'll be utilizing something that I had to for my previous Ice and Dragon monologues. Events. I'm attempting to slowly but surely help fill out the spreadsheet of every Pokemon monologue that was created by a Mr. Chaotic Meatball, and within the parameters of this document, as long as the Pokemon could be legally obtained on official hardware, it's allowed. With the event floodgates open, I could simply add every single electric type, except Mareep, right away. But I'm just gonna pick one since everything else could be caught at some point anyways. Except Mareep. And out of every possible option, I'm starting with Pichu. Now personally, I would have preferred Elekid, or Mareep, but this little guy gets access to our only grass type coverage in the whole run. His event move, Petal Dance. That'll be a necessity for our dirt-based opponents. Oh, one last cool thing about these guys. Just about every New York event has a 15% chance to be shiny. It's hard to tell, but due to Cable's raw bad boy energy, he beat the odds. As much as I'd love to leave Cable in his adorable baby state, this is a Nuzlocke, and I'd rather say goodbye to that cute little face this way, rather than the alternative. One of the saving graces of playing Pokemon Crystal version is that Sprout Tower is optional. Granted, the level cap would likely be higher if we had to face those geezers, but I'm mostly just glad that we don't have to face so many Pokemon resistant to Cable's Thundershocks. So after taking down Falkner's 2 bodyguards and leveling to 9 just in time, we take on the boss. Even though electric Pokemon are incredibly unlikely to see this fight, this bird boy came prepared with Mud Slap. Unfortunately, Cable gets slapped as soon as possible before taking down Pidgey in 2 hits. The accuracy drops from Mud Slap are very scary to roll with, so instead of attacking Pidgeotto as soon as he appears, Cable sharply weakens their attack with Charm. Sure, Thundershock would still be strong, but I know it's not going to be one shot. And between Charm and the follow-up Thunder Wave, it should let us claim victory even with our poor luck. Cable's Held Berry also keeps him away from Death's Door, but the Mud Slaps continue to rack up, and our misses begin to make me regret some decisions. But even after taking 4 total Mud Slaps that tanked his accuracy, Cable still manages to land 2 total Thundershocks, which is all it takes to win our first badge. Ideally, I would train on my own and challenge Bugsy right away. I have very few options for the upcoming boss fights, and would love to do this game's version of EV training. But in spite of that, and in spite of me, apparently, this is the one and only stretch of Johto with meat on its bones. Dozens of trainers await, avoidable or not, including the hikers from Union Cave who are the primary reasons I chose Cable. But I just dodged them with my pure skill. Huh. The hiker just past the cave on Route 33 wasn't letting anyone by, so I'm still glad that I chose the Petal Dancing Pichu. Without him, I would have wiped for sure. By the time we defeat every Team Rocket grunt within Slowpoke Well, which was pretty pitiful by the way, and got past the mandatory gym trainers, Cable had already barely reached level 16. We're getting by with just the skin of our teeth, but even without EV training, I still feel confident. As always, Bugsy starts off his contributions to the fight with his 2 Chrysalises. Both Metapod and Kakuna's only real job is to chip away at Cable before the Ace comes in. Because our main method of doing damage is special attacks rather than physical, they can't do that job very well at all. If anything, Kakuna could have gotten a poison off its sting, but luckily for us, that didn't happen. On the other hand, Scyther is a powerhouse, and Fury Cutter does not bode well. So even with our type advantage, Cable opts to charm him as soon as possible. This partnered up with Cable's Thundershock landing the Para, and his berry helping him shake off Scyther's damage, puts us in a great spot. My shiny Radical Rodent now outspeeds to put the ace in the yellow, while said Pokemon gets fully parried. Now that we're faster and the Fury Cutter is no longer boosted, Scyther goes for the priority move Quick Attack. Should it have crit, I would be telling a much sadder story right now, but it doesn't, and Cable manages to finish them off. Thank goodness gym leaders aren't using any potions yet. The action doesn't stop there, because now that my repel wore off, my rival challenges me to our first official battle. For the most part, we only have to worry about status shenanigans. His Ghastly lands Hypnosis as soon as possible, but doesn't really have the moves to capitalize on it. Once Cable wakes up and gets the kill, my rival sends out his starter. Okay, look, there are no rules against making him choose the worst starter for the monologue. I would have given him Bayleaf, but I'm pretty sure that thing would have walled us entirely, no matter which event Pokemon I picked. Though Cable might be proving me wrong because he keeps landing crits left and right. Keep that up and this might be the easiest monologue ever. With 2 badges in hand, we can finally make our way to the daycare center on Route 34. Like I previously mentioned, this is where I could finally pick up my first on-card encounter. Now, the odd egg that the old couple gives us can be one of any baby Pokemon. If I happen to get a Pokemon that isn't Elekid, normally that would be that, and I don't get any more Mons till Morty. However, there is a glitch in these games that many of you may be familiar with that's typically used to acquire all the starters. In short, once you acquire the egg, you put it in the box, change the box, which initiates a save, and hard reset at the perfect timing. This keeps the egg in the box while reloading you to your previous save. I'll leave a link in the description for a tutorial which gives the full explanation. To be fully transparent, to save myself time, I'm just gonna reset for the Elekid. But getting multiple odd eggs in a save is possible. This might be considered a grayish area within the Nuzlocke rules, considering it requires me to reset the game. One might say it's no different than resetting to get a better random grass encounter. But I would argue that the other odd eggs wouldn't be encounterable anyways. So if it were grass, I would simply re-encounter. And really at this point, the alternative is just a full run reset every time until I get Elekid. And that doesn't sound fun or enjoyable to watch. Anyway, the odd egg also has a boosted chance to spawn a shiny. However, after 21 egg hatches, Plug the Elekid hatches and evades Arceus' shiny blessing. At least in Igglybuff and Cleffa got it beforehand. Normally the downside would be left at that, the lack of sparkles. But in this game, there's more bad news. In Gen 2, shiny Pokemon are determined by the DV stats, this game's IVs. If Plug were shiny, she'd be guaranteed those higher stats, like Cable has, but now that she isn't shiny, the odd egg leaves her with 0 DVs across the board. Brutal. Also, not so fun fact, they made gender determined by strength in these games. Because Plug has 0 attack DVs, she's a girl. I don't think we were ever supposed to know this. So, where does that leave me in prepping for Whitney and her infamous Miltank? Well, even with bottom of the barrel stats, I can utilize Gen 2's stat experience mechanic, basically primitive EVs, to level up Plug and basically put as much as I can into special attack. The same Mr. Chaotic Meatball from before explains stat experience training and his process very well in this video, and if you're curious on how it's done, check it out after this video. But for now, following Chaotic Meatball's process, after grinding on Ghastly from Route 31, Plug has been leveled up to the level cap with these stats. I would have liked to have more, but with his stats being already better than Cable's, the TMs from the Goldenrod department store, and the Goldberry I yoinked off of the in-game Machop, I guess I shouldn't be complaining. And even then, with or without all this prep, I'll still need plenty of luck to get past Whitney with everyone alive. There is a line for that, and that line starts with Cable. Unfortunately, even with the damage buff from having Thunder Punch, the Clefairy still looks to be a 3-hit. Then, in the most disrespectful turn of events, Whitney's Clefairy uses Metronome to fire off Zap Cannon. Which of course lands and scores the guaranteed para. Zooey mama. I needed Cable to retain his speed so that he could use Thunder Wave on Miltank when it appeared. That was our most consistent way of dealing with it. Gone. Clefairy rolls an Icy Wind to reduce our speed even further for good measure, but at least Cable keeps up the pressure and lands another Thunder Punch. After that, Clefairy begins using Double Slap, which despite its randomness, is a much more consistent source of damage. It only hits a couple times, so after Cable lays fully parried, he eats his berry to heal back to just under half. At this point, we'd be dead to 4 more hits of Double Slap, and after they of course land the hit again, it only hits thrice. We have one last chance to take out Clefairy. And it's a wrap. In all actuality, getting fully parried even once meant that Cable wasn't making out of the fight alive. I couldn't switch Plug into a hit from Miltank without the cushion of them being parried, and Clef did too much damage to the paralyzed Cable for him to even get a chance to paralyze Miltank. Unless the cow used Attract or something, Zap Cannon set my Petal Dancer's fate in stone. Rest in peace, Cable. Streaming's been falling off, at least. There's one positive caveat to Cable's untimely demise. With Plug switching in for free and taking out Clefairy herself, she could level up mid-battle. Those level up stats let my new Lone Wolf barely outspeed Miltank for sure and get the upper hand. No support moves on our set, but Thunder Punch is still very strong. Miltank won't go for Attract because she's bigoted and begins building up rollouts instead. It's still iffy, but I much prefer this to Stomp. The second Thunder Punch brings them to the yellow, while the second rollout does the same to us. The difference here is that Plug eats her Goldberry that I took from the Machop and heals back to basically full. These berries are rare and heal 30 health points, like a citrus berry in Gen 3, which would have done well against countering Stomp should Whitney have used it. But instead, Plug ends up wasting it, because she manages to roll the damage just high enough to take out the early game super boss with Thunder Punch 3. If Miltank had attacked with Stomp instead, she wouldn't have been locked into the move and healed back with Milk Drink. In that case, I believe Thunder Punch could have put them in a cycle and eventually landed the para, but there was a boatload of RNG at play in this fight, like all around. I really wish Cable could have come out alive, but I still believe I took the most consistent route. However, without Cable, now I'll never have a full team. Before that fight, I considered using Crystal's Mystery Gift feature. By connecting to another player's game cartridge, just as it's allowed for trade evolutions, you could get a random prize each day at the Goldenrod department store. These infinite prizes range from regular berries to gold berries and to even evolution stones. Yeah, I technically could have evolved Cable before the third gym, but I wasn't sure if this would be stretching the rule set too far. I'd really love to know what you guys think about the mystery gift in the comments, and if I should use this in the future. And hey, while you're there, why don't you leave the video a like, subscribe, and hype? It would help me out a lot, and I'd really appreciate it. A lot goes into these videos, and with YouTube's competitive algorithm, a little goes a long way. Luckily, our way to the next gym isn't very long. Plug and I only really have to deal with the Pseudo-Wudo blocking our path. Barring crits, which Cable taught us weren't uncommon, as long as we gain a couple levels and hold the berry, this pseudo plank of wood isn't very difficult to deal with. From there we get to meet Bill and Ekritique, who leaves immediately, which means I have to walk all the way back to Goldenrod City. There's a lot of going back and forth in these games, and this time it's so we could pick up an Eevee. Bill would have trained it himself, but he doesn't touch enough grass, or something. The main way to get Keyboard's Thunderstone is to head to Route 38 and defeat Last Dana in a battle. This gets me her number, which she'll call me with when she gets an extra. And while we're here, I might as well get our next electric mon, a Magnemite. Route 39, right next door, is my only other chance to get a Magnemite before the post-game. So... cool. Not even worried. Good to have you, Switch. While I was Magnemite hunting, Last Dana had already found a Thunderstone, which I'll happily take, but I won't be force-feeding it to Keyboard just yet. That'll be for later. For now, I catch Switch up to the level cap with some stat experience grinding on Phanpy. This makes Switch more bulky than offensive, but I would still like to do something to boost his offensive presence. The level up moveset is very lacking, so with the help of the Game Corner, I end up teaching Switch Thunder. Just like the Game Corner, every use of this move will involve a little gambling, but hey, there's nothing wrong with a little gamble here and there. Switch gets broken in with our second rival fight, but not much has changed for him. Hunter does use Curse, which would be a problem if I still only had one Pokemon, but I don't, so it's not. When my rival tries to one-up me with his own Magnemite, I simply switch to Plug to take him out with Fire Punch. From there, I go back to Switch. It's their fight after all. Really, the Crocodile can't catch a break. We land Thunder again, and Zubat isn't far behind. You know what? Switch just might be a real gambler. The unevolved Keyboard is still on the team, and he could solo Morty's gym. However, I can't use him because he isn't an electric type yet. I'm just keeping him on hand because I don't want him to feel left out. Switch might be feeling a little left out though, because Plug ends up handling Morty entirely on her own. Ghastly goes down in one hit, Hunter 1 whiffs the Hypnosis and falls after, Gengar ironically gets fully parried and whiffs another Hypnosis. That's too bad, I know Plug was really looking forward to eating her mint berry. And before long, Hunter 2 just kinda lets it happen. And that's another gym for the books! Being free of the early game chaos, the team and I are finally able to hit our stride. Over in Olivine City, just south of where I picked up Switch, a fisherman bestows upon me a good rod. With this, I caught a Krabby. You're right, this isn't an electric type, as far as I know. But there is an NPC in the same town who's been dying for a Krabby. Thankfully, no one told him about fishing, because in return, he trades me Treadmill the Voltorb. By doing this trade, I don't have to risk any wild Electrode using self-destruct before I catch him. Then our other new member can be fished up in Newbark Town. With Bulb the Chinchou finally obtained, the team is now complete. Just like with the others, the new recruits are trained up with stat experience in mind. Both Mons have simulated thousands of battles against wild level 2 Phanpies from Route 46. Again, shout out Chaotic Meatball. And now we're very bulky. On top of that, Bulb's evolution occurs at the low level of 27, meaning not only have we entered Bulk City, we may just be the mayors. That really shows true when we challenge everyone in Ekritique's dance leader to a battle. And naturally, Bulb wins. What else are you supposed to do in a dance leader? When all is said and done, we're rewarded with Surf, which is just an insane move to have this early. From here, our next stop is Mahogany Town. I thought if we did some of Team Rocket's stuff now instead of all at once later, it would flow a little bit better. And to be honest, it is slightly more engaging, but even still, there isn't really anything worth mentioning. Actually, Plug finally evolves, so that was a lie. But this means she did hit level 30, so I'll need to be very careful with her inclusion for a minute. Good thing we don't need her for Bryce. Yeah, we're fighting him early. We're already here, might as well. His lead ice type is Seal, and what do you know? Treadmill's a gambler too. Being a trade encounter, Treadmill gains way more experience than the average Mon, so even though Piloswine doesn't have any ground moves, yet the Flying Gym did, I'll switch him out to forego any further leveling. Bulb then counters the 2 remaining Mons perfectly. Surf for Piloswine and Spark for Dugong. Sweet! Go team! I will say, doing all these battles before challenging Chuck may have been a problem. My electric Pokemon are gaining XP a little faster than I expected, and keeping my Mons within the level cap is somewhat of a challenge. To be fair, it didn't help that I accidentally battled about every trainer in the lighthouse and ended up evolving Switch early. Oopsie. And while we're here, I was reminded by the game that I still can't get my own Mareep. Maybe the lore implication is that Amphi is the last one? I guess that helps. We managed to cross the sea on the way to Cyanwood City without battling any trainers, which is great because with the 4 mandatory gym trainers, both Treadmill and Bulb barely reached the level cap by the time we defeat the final trainer. Man, that was close. But apparently all I needed to take down Chuck was Bulb. A couple of Surfs eliminate the Primeape as they whiff a Leer. I don't even know how you manage that. And the Poliwrath shares the same fate to Spark. This one gets fully parried along the way, which means Badge 5 is hitless. Wow, I'm really good at Pokemon! And I guess I could have already done this, but I'm just gonna do this now. It's time to evolve Keyboard. Normally you would want to evolve Eevee right away so that they get their coverage moves, as there's no move relearner in this game. However, as part of some sick joke, Bill gives you the Eevee at level 20, while the Eeveelutions get their Thundershocks and Embers at level 17. I guess you're meant to breed them? Well, on the bright side, I can level up Keyboard to 30 to learn Bite. Jolteon doesn't have much coverage in general, so this special Dark type attack gives him a nice little niche. You won't be using those stats just yet though, because after we interact with a member of the Mareep line for the final time... and a battle against Eusine, I guess. We head straight to the next gym to challenge Jasmine, though calling it a challenge would be a stretch. All Plug has to do is spam the special attacking Fire Punch over and over. That's literally all it takes to get our 7th badge. After that crazy early game, this feels nice. Jasmine rewards us with a TM for Iron Tail, and it would be nice if I could put it on my Iron Pokemon, but Switch doesn't get access to any of the 3 Iron type attacks in Gen 2. Actually, the first time Magneton gets an offensive Steel move is 7 years later in Gen 4. Cool! The moment of truth is here. Did taking down the Rocket HQ early fix the pacing of the Goldenrod radio segment? Not really. To be fair, this probably flows better in a normal playthrough where you're not exactly on the level pace of the gyms like you are in a Nuzlocke. The experience alone in that regard is probably very welcomed, but even in my mono electric run here, it's kind of a lot of nothing. I at least learned that Keyboard is the perfect counter to my rival. He's got the perfect coverage. Sure hope nothing happens to him before that final fight. But this isn't foreshadowing, I'm writing this as I go. I'm just wishing the best for my buddies. But yeah, there isn't a single issue we run into here. Electric Pokemon are usually built to be sweepers, especially in these older games. With or without the level advantage, as long as my team gets to land their attacks, we're really good. Though I'll never get over how this is the finale to Team Rocket. Would have been really cool if they finessed something extra in the Kanto post-game besides that one guy. But I guess these games were already filled to the brim at the time. You know, for a Game Boy Color game. After making our way through the very pretty ice path and picking up the Nevermelt Ice, that is for sure gonna get some use, we head on to challenge Claire. I had considered equipping Bulb with Blizzard and going ham, but apparently this Mon can't learn any ice moves until next generation. An interesting decision to say the least. But either way, we're still good with Plug, who knows Ice Punch. Honestly, the Nevermelt Ice may not have been necessary, but a little boost never hurt. Claire's first 3 Dragonairs all get one-shot, promptly leaving me with only Kingdra remaining. We switched to Thunder Punch since both elemental moves are neutral, but after Kingdra uses Surf, I see that we're dead to a crit. Bulb tags in, and really I should have known that they'd go for the Hyper Beam. Switch could have tagged in instead, but either way, the recharge turns give us the opportunity to unleash every little scheme we have. Eventually, Claire's Hyper Potions open up Bulb to a high roll crit Hyper Beam, so I switched to Switch, after all. On the full para. Well, our resident gambler strikes gold as they always do, and a single Thunder earns us the final Johto badge. Let's go! Victory Road being empty, as per my rival, is always a cool idea, but his team is not very representative of that feat. Once again, Keyboard sweeps the final roadblock before the Pokemon League, so all that's left is to take them on. Now that the team has settled into their archetypes, I'm really hoping that they can commit in the Elite Four. Like I said, these guys are at their best when they can simply outspeed and nuke the opponents. Thunder being one of the main attacks on this squad leaves me somewhat uncertain, but hopefully the stat experience that we grinded earlier can cover for that discrepancy. If nothing else, the team's got way more coverage than I was expecting to have at this point, so maybe I won't even have to use Thunder. One of the great things about this level split is that Plug finally gets access to Thunderbolt. Not quite as strong as Thunder, but it always hits. She's the only Pokemon with access to this move on level up, aside from Pikachu, and can use it to safely take out most of Will's Pokemon. Jinx is the only Mon that poses any threat, with Lovely Kiss having an easy time putting my eldest Mon to sleep. Too bad for them, we came equipped with a Mint Berry to wake up Plug in this scenario, so from there, each and every one of Will's remaining Mons gets steamrolled. With a Charcoal boosting Fire Punch, Koga is more or less the same. Ariados, Fortress, and Venomoth never really stood a chance, while Muck only used Toxic before falling to 2 Thunderbolts. Then, surprise surprise, Crobat was one-shot by Thunderbolt. Only being level 44 didn't really do them any favors. Now, Bruno is the only member that I don't have any super effective moves for. This means that a pause is put in today's Plug programming, as I instead lead with Bulb this time. Hitmontop may have access to Dig, but Bulb's insane bulk helps her brush it off before getting the knockout. I was really hoping that this would lead to Onix next, as Bulb is our best bet at taking him out before using Earthquake. However, Bruno has other plans. Both Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan enter the battle first, and they're surprisingly resilient to our special attacks, which is kind of our whole thing. I originally wanted to run Protect on Bulb to help circumvent high jump kick damage, but that's not available till postgame. Hitmonchan was pretty unrelenting with Mach Punch as well, and this meant that by the time Onix came out and was subsequently drowned, Bulb had only 96 HP remaining to deal with Machamp. Now, she is about the bulkiest fish to ever grace this battlefield, but the 4-armed brute in front of us has Cross Chop. We could survive, but that move has a high crit chance. There's no way I could risk Bulb, as her typing is invaluable, so I end up switching to Treadmill. And whoa, mama, that was a crit! I didn't anticipate being in this position against Bruno, but all I could do is call out Thunder and hope for a Para or Cross Chop miss. Thunder does land and do rather impressive damage, but our luck has unfortunately run out. Treadmill didn't get much screen time on this run, and was the fastest Pokemon in the whole game, but their contributions will not go unnoticed. Karen shouldn't be as tough, but her fight does run the risk of shenanigans. We started off with Evolution versus Evolution, and Keyboard utilizes his Double Kick. Umbreon has Confuse Ray, but a Bitter Berry undoes that status. Double Kick isn't quite strong enough to prevent them from using Confuse Ray again, but Keyboard focuses up and finishes the fight. I overlooked Vileplume's Stun Spore and didn't give a Paralyzed Cure Berry to Plug, but it still doesn't take much for them to take him out. From there, we return to Keyboard as he has great attacks for this fight, but I'd like to play around Gengar's Destiny Bond. I did, however, overlook another move in Curse, so after they get paralyzed, I switched to Switch. A little bit of Gamba never hurt anyone, and you know what? Neither did a little bit of Natural Disaster. Karen only has a Murkrow, and we could win from here, but like I said, this battle is supposed to be for Keyboard. But he misses Thunder, and I don't want to get caught by Pursuit. Bulb uses Spark, and knocks out Karen's final Mon. So, Lance is precarious. I have Plug here equipped with the Never Melt Ice and Ice Punch. If I'm lucky, we'll be capable of sweeping through the team, but if any of the Dragonite live and use Thunder Wave or Hyper Beam, that could be the run. I could equip a berry to cover for the para, but I'm pretty sure we need the extra damage from the Never Melt Ice. I had hoped to have Treadmill alive for the extra damage output in the scenario too, but we'll just have to run it. Against Lance's Gyarados, we get the freest kill of the fight with Thunderbolt. After that, the first Dragonite appears, and we have to flip our first coin, and Plug gets the Oko. Dragonite 2 appears, and since it's the same level, we flip the exact same coin, and come out on top yet again. Awesome. Next is Lance's Ace Dragonite, and Plug managed to level up to 51 just in time. As long as we enter the Elite Four at level 47, this is legal. This Dragonite is the biggest threat of the Elite Four, behind Machamp apparently. And he too goes down to a single Ice Punch. I did the calc afterwards, and that time we absolutely got a high roll. I know that extra damage was from Treadmill looking out for us. From there, with 2 more Thunderbolts, neither Aerodactyl nor Charizard stood a chance, and the Elite Four is concluded with a sweep. I really think I could have done that deathless, but Bruno's fight might have been up to RNG the whole time anyways. Either way, the run's still alive, and now it's time to take on the Kanto portion of the run. But first, I've got a couple things to do in Johto real quick. First of all, now that we've entered the Hall of Fame, a move tutor has become available in Goldenrod City. No one can learn Ice Beam, unfortunately, but at least Bill's dad here can teach Thunderbolt to the remaining Pokemon on my team. He only teaches the move once a day on Saturdays and Wednesdays, but we've got ways around that. On top of that, now that we're technically in the post-game, I'm allowing myself to catch the roaming legendary Raikou. This Pokemon is sick, and one of my favorite electric types of all time. Rod here doesn't really do anything different from the others on the team, and even has a similar special attack stat to Keyboard and Switch, with Switch being stronger. But hey, it's a Johto run! I need more Johto Mons than just Bulb. Sure, I had to repel Manip with my HM Mon to make this process faster, but really the only difference is that this video is coming out a week earlier. If the Mareep line were in the game, I wouldn't feel the need to have a Raikou. Also, by the way, in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, the Kanto gyms are scaled a little more appropriately for a post-Elite Four journey. In the original Johto games, on the other hand, there are only 2 gyms that I would call appropriate. Given that Blaine and Blue are the only trainers leveled above Lance, with Blaine only reaching level 50, I'm setting the level cap to level 58. I mean really, even Janine's strongest Pokemon is level 39. Again, probably fine in a casual playthrough, where you'd be underleveled, but not for a hardcore Nuzlocke. Normally I'd still attempt to challenge the Kanto gyms in level order, but I'm just gonna fight them as I happen to run into them. Fittingly, we start with Surge, and while he attempts to cheese me with Thunder Wave and Double Team, Switch has honed their gambling skills to the utmost and remains unaffected. Though I did need to finish him off with a mirror match. How could I not? Sabrina was next and is the first trainer that Rod unleashes his power upon. I stand by what I said earlier regarding stat spreads and movesets. Electric types have a hard time differentiating themselves in the early games. But Rod breaks through that stereotype with a 69 base power Ghost type hidden power. Not super relevant considering Keyboard has Bite, but I'll take it. By the way, what an underwhelming back sprite, huh? With the Psychic TM I picked up from Saffron, Plug uses Ice Punch to take out most of Erica's team, but uses Psychic on the Victory Bell. How about that? Against Janine, Plug actually makes full use of Psychic and breaks the minds of all of her Pokemon. I feel bad. For the most part, Misty's fight plays out how you would expect. The only problem was her Earthquaking Quagsire, but with the newly acquired leftovers, I was able to rely on Bulb pretty comfortably. The Snorlax blocking Diglett Cave gave Keyboard a little bit of a scare, but between his Thunder Wave and Switch's Steel typing, we had everything under control. And you know what? Even without Bulb, we probably still could have handled Brock, but Bulb definitely made things easier. Woohoo! And even while being at a more appropriate level, Blaine just couldn't help but get swept. Kinda feel bad for kicking him while he's down, but he's the fire guy. He probably should have been prepared for a volcano erupting and destroying his hometown and livelihood. I don't make the rules, it's just how it is. Unlike the others, Blue's got some powerhouses at his disposal. Sure, he's got mons like Pidgeot that pose 0 threat to us, but for every Pidgeot, there's an Exeggutor. Now, I've run into these guys before, and have multiple ways of dealing with Psychic types, but I was hoping our Electric typing would bait in Rhydon next. Instead, all we could do is land a Thunder Wave, while Exeggutor enables instantaneous Solar Beams with Sunny Day. When the time comes, I switch to Switch, who's the only resistant mon, yet it still does so much that we're already risking crits. I assume Tri-Attack would be stronger than Thunderbolt, so I go for that move, but begin doubting my decisions. Fortunately, we do get a full paralysis here and there, but I need to switch. And to Keyboard we go! On a full para! Given the extra chip damage from Switch, the bipedal palm tree is surely dead to a bite, and this is where the Rhydon actually tags in. With its insanely high attack stat and stab Earthquake, there's no way around this besides risking a crit. If that happens and Bulb goes down, we'll be in some real trouble. Yet they use Fury Attack, of all things? Okay. Well, that's a free natural disaster if I've ever seen one. Bulb is nowhere near low enough to be threatened by Alakazam, especially after they waste a turn setting up Reflect, so we set both the Para and Confuse Ray to make way for Keyboard again. This is his battle and he wears it well. A Bite Flinch into Bite to take out Alakazam, a Thunderbolt Para into Thunderbolt to take out Arcanine, and finally a good old-fashioned Thunderbolt to one-shot the Gyarados. I don't fully understand Gen 2 AI, obviously, but let it be known, had Blue had just gone on the hyper-offensive the entire time, we would have been much worse off. When it comes to Red, the strongest trainer in Pokemon until recent generations, I'm setting the level cap to his second highest Pokemon. His Pikachu and Pikachu alone is level 81, but it's just a Pikachu. If you didn't hear. Red's got a couple contenders to check my electric types, but we've never been more prepared. The Ghost of Cable's Past is first up on the chopping block, and without a Light Ball to boost their stats, Red's Pikachu is only able to manage a Charm to lower Keyboard's attack before wasting Red's full restore and getting taken out with Bite. I don't know if it's because I'm an Espeon enjoyer, but I really think this Pokemon fits Red's team way better than the Lapras, aesthetically and practically. Either way, Keyboard yet again asserts his dominance, and this time scores a crit to knock out the opposing Fox with one blow. Snorlax, on the other hand, is the Pokemon I'm worried about the most. He's already bulky enough to withstand our electric attacks, Rest can undo Thunder Wave, and Pikachu's earlier charm means that Double Kick won't be doing nearly as much now. However, Keyboard shows his spirit and lands another crit regardless. Nice job, buddy. However, we stay in, and the Amnesia, followed by the Body Slam into Para, spells some major danger for both Keyboard and me. Luckily, he's got the Paralyzed Cure Berry to undo the nerf, but we're in no position to outpace this roadblock. This is where I send out Switch, as they're the only one resistant to Snorlax's normal type attacks. Sedmon uses Rest to heal everything off, and we begin our next onslaught. And Switch is a gambler after all, so I figured it'd only be appropriate to stay true to their personality and use Zap Cannon. Sure, they had set up Amnesia on top of the base 110 special bulk, but we could get a crit. Unfortunately, of the 5 total Zap Cannons we came with, only 2 land, while the Snores whittle us away. Of course, their first Body Slam gets the Para again, so Switch might have finally met someone who can outsmoke them. Our realignment into using Tri-Attack is too little too late, as Snorlax has plenty of opportunities to heal everything back with Rest. And get a crit with Snore, apparently. Okay man, I didn't want to do this, but now I need to tag in my legendary Rod on a Body Slam Para. Brother. Thunderbolt won't be doing too much, and Hidden Power is still Ghost type. But Rod was taught the TM for Iron Tail, which should be our best offensive attack for Snorlax. If they would use it, Snorlax heals everything back again. Man, Rod misses. That's alright, a miss is bound to happen with that move once in a while. Next turn we trade a Snore with an Iron Tail that finally connects, and to be honest, I really thought it would do more damage. It looks like we'll be here a little longer than planned, so after taking another Snore, we set up Reflect. Beyond that, it begins looking like our attempts to do damage remain futile. Body Slam, full Para. Body Slam, Iron Tail miss. Body Slam, Iron Tail miss. Body Slam, Iron Tail miss. You know what? Maybe this is my fault. Rod doesn't quite have as much experience as the others. Unfortunately, the Reflect turns have ended, so even though no one else will be able to benefit from them, I still have no choice but to switch. However, it might have been in my best interest to sacrifice Rod, because Bulb enters on a turn 1 Body Slam Para. What is Red feeding this thing? Bulb's leftovers at least let her compete with Snorlax's recovery, somewhat, but our own Para means that the only thing Bulb can achieve is landing a Confuse Ray. The team has taken way too much damage from this thing, and as our Thunderbolt wasn't a critical, we need a safe switch in. Sorry Rod, but you had your chance. I would have preferred leaving this fight deathless, but them's the breaks. Keyboard returns with no Charm debuff, and the Paralyzed Cure Berry is actually the biggest difference maker in this fight. Keyboard now outspeeds and lands full power double kicks, while the Snorlax hurts himself in confusion. Oh, I bet Switch is so proud. We continue to outspeed and land yet another double kick, finally obliterating the Snorlax. Venusaur is next, and the only possible problem remaining, but he's way more manageable. Keyboard stuns them with Thunder Wave while they set up Sunny Day. A follow-up bite to flinch to another bite does considerable damage, but Snorlax powers through to land a Solar Beam, which puts my evolution into kill range. We could stay in to fish for pair of flinches, but Keyboard is no gambler. Plug is my only Pokemon remaining who's healthy, and that was by no mistake. When she enters, the Venusaur remains fully parried, which means the fight is all ours. Plug uses Psychic, which I believe was a high roll, to finish off Venusaur in one hit. This was the last Mon that posed any threat, so with him out of the way, Plug is free to sweep yet again. Thunderbolt into Blastoise was always a sure kill, and with Charizard being last, just like it was against Lance, we're able to end the final fight with one last Thunderbolt, thus winning us the battle against Pokemon Legend Red, and the entire game. If Mareep were in the game, it could have been deathless too. Thank you all so much for watching today. I really hope you enjoyed, and if you did, then please leave a like and hype if YouTube lets you. Slowly but surely, I'm getting to run a monologue of every type that hasn't been done before, and I don't know if I'll ever get to flying, but we'll see. Also, I'm glad I was able to utilize every encounter in this game, aside from Rod and Treadmill, kind of. After a certain point, I was worried it would be a plug solo run, but we managed to break out of that possibility. Either way, that's all I've got for you today. Thank you again so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and have a good one.